bringing it back to the topic of evolution, which again is such a big problem to so many people. How do you see evolution in your eyes? Is it something that is a straight up lie? Is it a hoax? Is there validity to it?
One of the 8th century Muslim scholars, Imam Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, rahmatullah alayh, he has a nice verse in a long poem that he wrote, a long creedal poem. And in it, he mentions how what corrupts knowledge and the world is when people turn their backs on tafsil, on the nuances, on the details. So, for example, please forgive me in terms of the viewers if I'm going to mention something that some of the viewers might not be familiar with. But in Islam, we have this issue of taqlid, okay, which can range from being called blind following to the other angle, following qualified scholarship. It's a following of someone without knowing their background proof. And in Islam, it's called taqlid. So when the classical scholars are asked, is this taqlid, this kind of trust for authority, is it something allowed in Islam or not? They will say it's not a single case. There is a type of taqlid which is forbidden in Islam, and there is a type of taqlid which is prescribed, and it's sometimes even obligated in Islam. There's nuances, there's distinctions and detail. It seems to me that something as complex as evolution and its vast scope of what it says is like that. There are distinctions. There are certain parts of evolution that a Muslim committed to the texts of Revelation shouldn't feel uncomfortable with. Then there are things that evolution states that the Muslim should feel uncomfortable with, and it will be an issue of, can I square the circle? But we won't know that until two things. Firstly, that we understand what evolution is saying in some detail. And secondly, what Islam and its theology is saying in some level of detail. Without knowledge of this or that, one couldn't make any definitive claims. So if someone says, oh, evolution doesn't agree with Islam, or the other way around, evolution is completely compatible with Islam, those generic absolutist statements, I suspect couldn't be made from someone who understands evolution fairly well and Islamic theology fairly well, and Allah knows best.
Yeah, Allahu alam. Jazakallah khair. So I hear a lot about how Darwin himself was a deist for a lot of his life. He believed in God for a lot of his life, and then there was a little fluctuation in that. And he himself gave a number of things where he said, if these things fail, my theory fail. Like gradualism is one, and we find we're finding today gradualism is failing. And you find other mechanisms of evolution that are being brought about. Neogenetics, neo-Darwinism, so on and so forth. What would you say the common understanding of evolution as wholesomely as possible is today?
Okay, so if I wind back a little and say that, if you permit me, I have 8 or 9 points, or 9 or 10 points I'd like to make. And within those 9 or 10 points, I hope, inshallah, that between ourselves and the viewers, the audience, we can collectively kind of join the dots and come to some kind of answer, even if that answer isn't definitive. But I feel it's worth going through things step by step, as laborious as it may seem. One, because it is a really pertinent question. There are, possibly tens of thousands of Muslims, quite often young uh, gifted men and women, Muslim men and women, who are entering into university, into college, and they're confronted with these issues, and they turn to sources in the Muslim community to find answers. Often they feel let down, and sometimes some of them make up their own minds, though it might be ill-judged of what they think about Islam. Sometimes it weighs heavily on them. And then there are people who aren't, students or whatever. There are just seasoned adults who themselves they're not quite sure. As parents, I'm not quite sure what to tell my children. I remember back in the late 90s, I gave a talk in one of the Islamic Society events in London, in one of the universities in London. And this university in London is one of the universities for medicine in London. It's one of the premier universities for doing medicine. And I said, normally we have talks on Wednesday. The Islamic societies normally have talks on Wednesday because Wednesday is like half day for most universities. They said, yeah, no, we decided to do it on Thursday because we just had a biology class. I said, oh, so what, a biology class now? And the brother said, yes. I said, oh, but this room is fully attended. There's about, 60, 80 people here. But did they all kind of not attend biology or whatever? He said, yes. I said, oh, right. I said, why is that? He said, oh, it's just evolution. And none of us Muslims, we don't attend any class on evolution. I said, why? He said, oh, because it's all rubbish, right? I said, had you not been studying medicine, I probably would have let that go. Bismillah, that's your view. Khalas, what can you say? It's not, but you're studying medicine, right? You can't be having that view. And so we went through some of these issues and whatever. I think about a month later, 2 months later, they called me for another talk. And this time I noticed it was on a Wednesday. And the brother then writes to me saying, we're all attending the classes, evolution or not, we get it now, alhamdulillah. So it is a big issue. A lot of people, even before Muslims, Christians in the beginning of the 19th, 20th century faced the barrage. Many people lost their Christian faith and Christian belief. There are Muslims who have apostatized and felt that they've lost their faith because of this. So it is an important thing.